Nice bracelet, Quinn, Celeste Drawl said, voice syrupy with cruelty. It looks like something you win at a carnival by guessing a chicken's mood. The conference room went still in the way a crowded elevator goes still when someone says something unforgivable. 12 people sat around the glossy table, all of them suddenly fascinated by their notepads, their water bottles, the tiny crack in the ceiling tile that had apparently become a spiritual journey. Quinn Harper did not blink. She looked down at her wrist. The bracelet was plain, matte silver, edges softened with wear. A tiny seal pressed into the metal, the kind you would miss if you only ever noticed shiny things. Celeste leaned back, pleased with herself. She wore a blazer that looked expensive and sounded expensive too, whenever she shifted, like it was whispering, "I cost more than your rent." Her laugh came out sharp and practiced, the laugh of someone who had never needed to be kind to survive. "No offense," Celeste added, grinning at the room like she expected applause. "I love a commitment to minimalism. It is very, I found it in a drawer at my aunt's estate sale." A few low chuckles tried to pass as coughs. A director with a ring light on his laptop pretended to adjust his camera, even though they were not on a call. Someone sipped coffee like it could erase sound. At the head of the table, Victor Klein, executive vice president of strategy, and Celeste's father in everything but his resume, cleared his throat. He did not correct her. He did not even pretend. He just gave a little smile, the kind you give a dog when it sits. "Let us keep momentum," Victor said. "We are discussing the tridenton expansion." Quinn's pen moved across her notepad, neat, steady. She wrote a single line, then underlined it twice. If anyone had been watching her hand, they would have seen the faint indentation from years of pressure, the mark of someone who did not waste effort on performances. Quinn was operations. Not glamorous, not visible, not celebrated. She was the person who prevented disasters that other people never had to know existed. She arrived early, left on time, and talked only when talking was required. She was the kind of employee people described as solid in performance reviews, right before giving raises to someone louder. 6 years at Larkspire Holdings, and Quinn had learned the two sacred rules of survival. Do your work, and do not become interesting. Then Celeste arrived. Celeste was young, polished, and equipped with the kind of confidence that only grows in well-watered nepotism. She had a graduate degree from a place that printed prestige on parchment, and she had a job title that sounded like it came with a crown, Innovation Steward, which meant she could interrupt meetings to say, "What if we reimagine the pipeline as a narrative arc?" She talked over analysts. She treated assistants like furniture that had disappointed her. She stole ideas with a smile, then praised herself for being collaborative. She misread basic reports, then blamed the formatting. Once she forwarded a draft client memo with internal jokes still in it, including a line that read, "If they ask about the missing line item, act confused and mention synergy." Someone else spent a week repairing the damage. Celeste received a compliment for moving quickly. Quinn watched it all, silent, not because she was afraid, because she was counting. Victor clicked to the next slide. It was full of buzzwords stacked like cardboard boxes. Dynamic restructuring, frictionless alignment, value cascade. Celeste nodded along like she had invented language. The room pretended to take notes. Quinn's bracelet lay against her wrist, cool and heavy. Celeste's eyes flicked down again, unable to resist. "Seriously," she said, softer now, as if offering advice. "If you ever want help picking something less apocalyptic, I can recommend a stylist. You look like you are one candle away from joining a sea cult." Quinn looked up at her, calm eyes, unmoved. "It is not jewelry," Quinn said. Her voice was quiet, and somehow it made the insult hang in the air even longer. "It is an identifier." Celeste laughed again, but it was thinner. "Okay, Agent Minimalism." Victor gave another indulgent smile, as if his daughter had said something adorable rather than cruel. All right, he said. Back to business. Back to business meant back to pretending. But the room had shifted. The people around the table had felt it, even if they did not understand it. Like the floor had a hairline crack. After the meeting, Quinn returned to her desk. It was tucked near a sad plant and a printer that groaned like it had regrets. She opened her inbox. Routine approvals, outdated requests, people asking her to fix problems they could not name. A message sat at the top, unread. No subject line, no greeting, only a string of numbers and one letter at the end. Q. Quinn did not smile. She did not even exhale differently. She clicked it open. Inside was a single sentence. If the seal is visible, the audit begins. Quinn's hand went to her bracelet, thumb finding the tiny stamped mark. At some point later, the elevators chimed, and a hush rolled through the floor like a shadow passing over water. Assistants straightened. Managers stood a little taller. Someone's laughter died mid-syllable. A visitor had arrived. Not a client with opinions. Not a consultant with slides. The kind of person who made executives forget their own names. Quinn did not stand. She simply saved her work, locked her screen, and waited. Because the person walking toward Larkspire's glass doors had once sworn they would recognize that seal anywhere. And Celeste, still floating on the pleasure of her own cruelty, had no idea she had just insulted a trigger. The man entered without announcing himself, which was its own kind of announcement. He did not look around like he needed directions. He did not pause at reception. He walked as if the building belonged to him and everyone inside was simply borrowing oxygen. Two assistants peeled away from his path like leaves in a gust. The receptionist stood, hands clasped, suddenly respectful in a way she never managed for Victor Klein. His name was Dorian Wexler, and at Larkspire Holdings his name was spoken like a warning label. He ran Wexler and Sable Capital, old money disguised as modern efficiency. When Dorian invested, markets adjusted their posture. He wore a dark suit that looked quiet and expensive. No shiny watch, no flashy cufflinks, just an air of restraint that meant he did not need to be seen to be feared. Quinn was in the corridor near the server room, holding a folder and a cup of plain coffee. She had no reason to be on that floor, according to Celeste's unspoken rules of social geography. But Quinn followed systems, not pride. Dorian passed her, and for 3 steps he did not slow. Then his gaze dropped. To her wrist, to the bracelet. His body stopped mid-stride, as if someone had pressed pause on him. The corridor went silent. Even the air conditioner seemed to hesitate. Dorian's eyes narrowed, sharp and searching. His voice came low, almost rough. "Where did you get that?" Quinn did not flinch. She met his gaze like she had expected this question for years. "My guardian gave it to me," she said. Dorian's jaw tightened. His eyes flicked to her face again, studying, comparing. Whatever he saw there landed heavy. "That seal," he said, quieter now, "should not be outside a vault." Quinn gave a small nod, as if he had confirmed something useful. Behind them, an executive assistant hovered like a frightened bird. "Mr. Wexler," she whispered, "the boardroom is ready." Dorian did not move. His attention stayed on Quinn's wrist. "What is your name?" "Quinn Harper." His expression did not change, but something in his eyes shifted. Recognition without comfort. "Harper," he repeated, as if testing it. Then he looked past her, toward the executive wing. "They do not know what they are standing on." "They do not," Quinn agreed. Dorian took a slow breath. "They will." He walked on, leaving Quinn in the corridor with the lingering weight of his attention. She returned to her desk and resumed working as if nothing had happened. That was the joke of it, really. She looked like the least dramatic person in the building. Meanwhile, the executives were about to step into a quiet catastrophe. In the boardroom, Victor launched into his pitch with a smile that wanted to be admired. Slides rolled past. Projections, growth narratives, strategic poetry disguised as numbers. Celeste sat near the front, legs crossed, phone angled toward her face. She checked her reflection between bullet points. a woman conducting herself like a celebrity trapped in a business seminar. Dorian sat at the far end of the table. He listened without reacting, hands clasped, eyes still, like a judge tolerating a performance. Victor's voice filled the room. "We believe Tridenton presents a unique opportunity to—" Dorian lifted one finger. The effect was immediate. Silence dropped. Absolute. Victor froze mid-word, mouth slightly open. A director's pen stopped scratching. Even Celeste looked up. Dorian did not look at Victor. He looked across the room, directly toward the seat by the wall where Quinn had been asked to sit for operational context. When people followed his gaze, their eyes landed on Quinn, like they had never really seen her before. Dorian stood. The chair legs barely scraped, but the sound still made everyone tense. He walked the length of the table, slow and deliberate, until he stopped beside Quinn. He leaned slightly, voice low enough to demand attention without begging for it. "Tell me," he said, "who gave you that seal?" Quinn looked up at him, calm as a locked door. "My guardian," she repeated, then added, "His name was Silas Marrow." The reaction in Dorian was not theatrical. It was worse. It was the kind of fear that does not scream. His face drained, not pale but tight, as if his skin had forgotten how to hold blood. Victor blinked. "Is everything all right, Mr. Wexler?" Dorian straightened. He finally looked at Victor, and the look made Victor's confidence fold inward. "This meeting is over," Dorian said. Victor laughed once, nervous, confused. "I am sorry?" "You are," Dorian replied, "but not in the way you think." He turned to the room, voice precise. "Whatever deal you believed you were negotiating, you are not. Not today. Not with that name in this building." Victor's hands lifted helplessly. "Mr. Wexler, if there has been a misunderstanding—" "There has," Dorian said, cold now. "One you will pay for." He looked back to Quinn and gave a tight nod. "We will speak." Then he walked out, leaving the boardroom in stunned silence. Celeste's mouth hung open. Victor stood frozen, as if someone had stolen gravity. Quinn sat exactly as she had been sitting, expression unchanged, as if the room had not just cracked. Outside the boardroom, whispers started instantly, multiplying like mold. Who was Silas Marrow? Why did Wexler look like he had seen a ghost? Why was Quinn Harper suddenly the center of a storm? Celeste stalked into Victor's glass office later, heels sharp with rage. "What was that?" she hissed. "He walked out because of her weird bracelet?" Victor did not answer right away. He had pulled up an old interview, grainy footage from years ago. Dorian Wexler, younger, sitting beside a man whose face was half shadow. On the man's wrist, the same seal. Victor swallowed. "That is not a bracelet," he muttered. "That is a key." Celeste scoffed. "To what?" Victor's eyes stayed on the screen. "To the part of this firm we buried." By the next workday, the building looked the same, but the air did not. People still scheduled meetings that could have been emails. They still carried laptops like shields. They still made jokes in the kitchen about the coffee tasting like burnt ambition. But underneath it all, something had changed. Quinn felt it in the way conversations stopped when she walked by, in the way managers lingered near her desk pretending to look at the printer, in the way a director who had ignored her for years suddenly asked, "How are you doing?" with the strained tenderness of someone petting a tiger through glass. Celeste felt it too, except she interpreted it as betrayal. She arrived wearing a new coat with sharp shoulders and sharper intentions. She walked through the bullpen as if daring anyone to keep whispering. When she reached her team's area, she noticed it. Quinn's inbox was suddenly packed with messages from people who normally treated her like furniture. Requests, questions, uninvited politeness. Even the assistant to the board chair stopped at Quinn's desk and said, "If you need anything at all, please let us know." Celeste watched, cheeks tightening. It was not jealousy exactly. It was insult. In Celeste's world, attention was currency, and she could not stand seeing someone else accidentally become wealthy. She marched into Victor's office. They are acting like she is royalty, Celeste snapped. It is ridiculous. Victor was sweating. He did not usually sweat. He was a man who wore confidence like cologne. On his screen was a compliance dashboard, blinking with alerts like an injured animal. Beside it was a file he had not opened in years. Legacy holding structure, sealed and ignored. Victor rubbed his face. Do you know who Silas Marrow was? Celeste rolled her eyes. Some edgy bracelet guy, apparently. Victor's stare cut through her. He was a silent backer, a ghost investor, the man who kept this company alive when it should have collapsed. Celeste's confidence faltered just enough to be noticeable. Then why would his person be here? Victor's voice went lower. Because the seal means oversight. Celeste scoffed, but it sounded weaker. Oversight by whom? Victor's mouth worked, searching for words that did not exist in Celeste's vocabulary. By the part of this firm that does not answer to us. Down the hall, Quinn received a message that did not come through normal channels. No subject line, no signature, only a location inside the building and a single instruction: bring the seal. Quinn stood, picked up her folder, and walked without hurry. The room she entered was not on any public floor plan. It looked like a conference room, but older, colder, as if it had been designed for decisions that left bruises. Dorian Wexler stood near the window, hands clasped behind his back, staring out at the city. Two people in dark suits sat near the table, silent and alert. Dorian turned when Quinn entered. Close the door. She did. He looked at the seal on her wrist again, and this time his expression held something closer to respect than fear. Silas Marrow, Dorian said, was the most dangerous accountant I ever met. Quinn raised an eyebrow. Accountant. Dorian's mouth tightened. He understood numbers the way surgeons understand arteries. He could cut a person out of a system and make it look like they never existed. One of the silent suits slid a small black folder across the table. No logo, no company name. Dorian nodded toward it. He left instructions. For you. Quinn did not rush. She opened the folder carefully. Inside was a single card, embossed with a seal matching hers, and a short sentence printed beneath it. If Larkspire forgets its spine, remind it. Quinn's thumb traced the edge of the card. He expected this. He planned for it, Dorian said. He funded Larkspire through a chain of shell entities, then buried a contingency inside the original governance. No one wanted to remember it, because remembering it meant admitting they were not fully in control. Quinn looked up. What activates it? Dorian's gaze dropped to her wrist. That seal. One of the suits finally spoke, voice careful. The seal signals a legacy audit. The person carrying it has observational authority. Interference triggers a breach clause. Quinn's expression did not change. So, if they try to fire me. Dorian's smile was thin. Then they set the building on fire from the inside. Quinn closed the folder. Victor will try. He already is, Dorian said. Your name is moving through their system like a fever. Quinn considered that. Good. Dorian studied her for a moment, as if seeing more than an efficient mid-level employee. Do you want power? Quinn's answer came without hesitation. I want accuracy. Dorian exhaled slowly. Then you will get revenge as a byproduct. Quinn's eyes stayed steady. I do not need revenge. I need consequences. Dorian nodded once, then slid a second item across the table. An envelope, thick, sealed. This will be delivered to the board chair, he said. It contains what they tried to bury. It also contains what Victor has been doing with internal transfers. Quinn's gaze sharpened. You have proof. Dorian's voice cooled. I have a ledger. Your guardian made sure of it. Quinn stood, envelope in hand. Then we begin. Back in the bullpen, Celeste was already building her own narrative. She cornered two managers near the coffee machine. It is obvious, she said loudly. Quinn is manipulating people. She is playing victim. She is trying to sabotage leadership. The managers exchanged glances that said, "Do not speak. Do not blink. Survive." Celeste's smile sharpened. "My father will handle it." At some point later, Victor's voice boomed down the hallway, furious. "I do not care whose seal she is wearing," he barked. "I will not have some silent little nobody humiliating us." Quinn walked toward his office, envelope in her folder like a blade tucked under fabric. She did not look angry. She looked ready. Victor Klein's office smelled like expensive cologne and cheap panic. He stood behind his desk with his hands spread wide, performing authority like it was a magic trick. Celeste sat in a chair near the glass wall, lips pressed tight, eyes bright with the thrill of impending punishment. Quinn stood across from them, posture relaxed, as if she had walked in to return a borrowed stapler. Victor pointed at her. "You undermined a key investor," he snapped. "You created disruption. You have been accessing systems outside your role." Quinn's voice stayed even. "I flagged an internal discrepancy in a dormant transfer account. You approved it." Victor's face twitched. "That is not relevant." Quinn tilted her head. "It is the only thing that is relevant." Celeste scoffed, loud enough to be heard by anyone pretending not to listen outside. "She is doing that calm thing again," she said, as if describing a bad habit. "Like she is above everyone." Victor jabbed a finger toward the door. "Human Resources is waiting. Effective immediately, you are suspended. Badge, credentials, access. Done." Quinn did not move. "You cannot." Victor laughed, a brittle sound. "Watch me." Then came the knock. 3 sharp taps on glass. Not polite, not hesitant. The kind of knock that expects the door to obey. Victor turned, irritated. "I am in the middle of—" The door opened without waiting for permission. Board Chair Sabine Morel stepped in, followed by General Counsel Rowan Sykes, Head of Internal Compliance Tessa Lorne, and 2 board members who rarely left their quiet corners of control. Sabine Morel had silver hair and an expression like fine glass, beautiful, brittle, and dangerous to mishandle. She carried an ivory envelope sealed with red wax and a stamped insignia. Victor's confidence deflated. "Sabine, this is not a good time." Sabine's eyes flicked to Quinn's wrist, the seal, then back to Victor. "It is an excellent time," Sabine said, voice calm. "You are attempting to trigger a breach." Victor blinked. "A breach of what?" Rowan Sykes stepped forward and placed the envelope on Victor's desk like it was a verdict. "Legacy governance," Rowan said. "The part you hoped no one would ever read." Victor stared at the seal, throat moving. "Where did you get that?" Sabine's voice stayed smooth. "It arrived through a courier channel that predates your promotion." Celeste sat up straighter, confused. "This is ridiculous. Are you all here because of a bracelet?" Tessa Lorne's gaze cut to Celeste. "It is not a bracelet. It is a legacy identifier." Sabine nodded at Victor. "Open it." Victor's fingers trembled as he broke the wax. He pulled out several pages, aged but pristine, their edges sharp like they had been waiting. His eyes scanned the text, and his face drained so quickly he looked suddenly older. Celeste leaned forward. "Dad, what is it?" Victor swallowed. His mouth moved without sound. Rowan spoke, mercilessly clear. "This document confirms a silent equity stake tied to the seal on Ms. Harper's wrist. It also confirms audit authority that supersedes executive oversight." Victor's voice cracked. "That is impossible." Sabine's gaze did not soften. "It is inconvenient, not impossible." Tessa opened a second folder, thinner, modern. "We also have evidence of unauthorized internal transfers signed under your credentials. Several trace back to discretionary accounts you established for non-essential roles." Her eyes flicked briefly toward Celeste, then back to Victor. "It is sloppy." Celeste's cheeks flushed. "What are you implying?" Rowan did not look at her. "We are stating facts." Victor's hands clenched. "This is a misunderstanding. Quinn is manipulating you. She is. Sabine raised one hand, and Victor's words died. Ms. Harper has been operating under legacy observation, Sabine said. Any attempt to demote, suspend, or terminate her triggers an automatic governance breach clause. Victor's eyes widened. Automatic? Rowan nodded. Automatic. Celeste stood abruptly. So she can just do whatever she wants? This is insane. Quinn finally spoke again, quiet. I do not want your job, Celeste. Celeste's face twisted. Then why are you doing this? Quinn's gaze held steady. Because you believed cruelty was consequence-free. Victor slammed his palm on the desk. This is not about her feelings. Quinn did not blink. Correct. It is about your numbers. Sabine turned slightly toward Quinn. Do you wish to address the board? Quinn shook her head once. Not yet. Victor's mouth opened, desperation spilling out. You cannot let her do this. I built. Rowan cut him off. You exploited. Sabine's voice remained calm, but it landed like stone. Victor Klein, you are relieved of duty pending formal investigation, effective immediately. Victor staggered back. You cannot. Sabine did not raise her voice. We can. We will. Two security officers appeared at the doorway, summoned with a quiet efficiency that made Victor's bluster look childish. Celeste's eyes went wide. This is not happening. Tessa looked at Celeste, expression flat. Your access credentials have been implicated in multiple compliance breaches. Your role is suspended pending review. Celeste's voice rose. It was a joke. I did not know. I was not. Quinn's eyes met hers. Calm. Unforgiving. You did know, Quinn said. You knew you could be careless and people would clean up after you. Security stepped forward. Victor lunged toward Quinn with his eyes wild. You did this. Quinn's voice stayed steady. No, Victor, you did. As the door closed behind them, the office beyond the glass went silent, as if the building itself had been holding its breath. Quinn stood there with the seal on her wrist, the legacy document on the desk, and the quiet satisfaction of watching entitlement meet a wall. Not because she enjoyed humiliation, because she enjoyed accuracy. The founder's office had the stale dignity of a museum exhibit. Dark wood, heavy frames, a black and white photo of early partners smiling with the reckless confidence of men who had not yet learned what money does to a soul. Quinn stood across from Alistair Rook, the man whose name still sat on the building's signage like a ghost refusing to move on. His hands were folded on a leather blotter, expression caught between regret and calculation. He studied her wrist. That seal, he said quietly, has not been visible in decades. Quinn's voice stayed even. It was never gone. It was waiting. Alistair exhaled, slow. Silas Marrow funded us when we were bleeding. He saved this company and vanished. He did not vanish, Quinn said. He watched. Alistair's eyes narrowed. Watched what? Quinn stepped closer and placed a thin folder on his desk. It was not thick, because the most devastating truths rarely need bulk. Our culture, Quinn said. Our governance, our numbers, our habits. Alistair opened the folder and read. As he did, his expression tightened like a knot being pulled. Quinn's voice remained calm, but every word landed like a measured strike. Victor turned strategy into theater. He treated competence as an inconvenience. He weaponized his daughter's entitlement. He used internal accounts as a private buffet. Alistair closed his eyes for a brief moment, as if absorbing the cost of denial. Quinn continued, unwavering. I worked quietly. I corrected errors that could have become scandals. I documented patterns. I waited for proof. Alistair opened his eyes. So you came to punish us? Quinn's gaze held steady. I came to verify whether this company deserves to exist in its current form. A knock sounded. This time it was not urgent. It was inevitable. Rowan Sykes entered with two security officers behind him and Victor Klein between them, still wearing the expression of a man who believed reality would bend if he argued hard enough. Celeste followed behind, mascara smudged, fury cracking into panic. Victor pointed at Quinn the moment he saw her. There she is, the parasite. You are letting her dismantle everything we built. Alistair's voice stayed flat. You dismantled your own position. Victor laughed, sharp and disbelieving. You cannot fire me. I have votes. I have. Rowan placed a document on the desk. You had votes. You also have evidence. Multiple unauthorized transfers, signature misuse, and a pattern of negligent oversight. Celeste stepped forward, hands clenched. This is insane. I did not do anything. I made a joke. People are overreacting. Quinn looked at her, and there was no anger in it, only clarity. You called cruelty a joke because you believed you were untouchable, Quinn said. That belief is expensive. Celeste's voice cracked. You are doing this because I teased you about a bracelet. Quinn's eyebrow lifted. If you still think this is about your mouth, you have learned nothing. Victor lunged toward the desk. You cannot let her win. She is nobody. Alistair's stare hardened. She is the audit. Victor froze. The phrase hit him like a door slamming. Alistair stood, slow, and for the first time his age looked like authority rather than decoration. Victor Klein, he said. You are terminated. Effective immediately. Victor's face twisted. You cannot. Alistair did not raise his voice. I can. I founded this firm. I have the votes you assumed would protect you. Victor turned toward Quinn again, eyes desperate. You planned this. Quinn's tone stayed steady. I planned to observe. Your behavior wrote the ending. Celeste's breathing turned sharp. Dad, do something. Victor's mouth opened, then closed again, as if he had finally met a situation he could not bully. The security officers moved in. Victor resisted just long enough to embarrass himself, then was guided out. Celeste tried to follow, voice rising into a messy plea, but Rowan blocked her. Ms. Klein, Rowan said, your suspension stands. Your access is revoked. Celeste's eyes flashed toward Quinn. You think you are better than everyone because you stayed quiet. Quinn's voice remained calm. No. I stayed quiet because loud people like you mistake noise for power. Celeste's lips trembled, then she spat one last attempt at dignity. What do you even want? Quinn turned slightly, glancing at the old photo on the wall. Men smiling. One empty space where a partner's name had been removed from the plaque years ago. I want the company to stop rewarding harm, Quinn said. I want the numbers to match the narrative. I want consequences to be real. Alistair sat back down, looking suddenly tired. The board wants you to take a seat, he said. Full oversight, voting rights, anything you ask. Quinn did not answer immediately. She reached into her bag, removed a small matte box, and opened it. Inside was the seal card Dorian had shown her, paired with a second item, a simple resignation letter, already signed. She set the box on the desk. Alistair blinked. You are leaving. Quinn closed the box gently. I did not come here to collect a title. Rowan frowned. Then why trigger all of this? Quinn met their eyes, calm as ever. Because revenge is not always a scream. Sometimes it is a ledger. Alistair stared at the box, understanding slowly dawning. What happens now? Quinn's mouth curved into a small, restrained smile. Witty, but not kind. Now, she said, you clean what you let rot, and you do it in the daylight. She turned and walked out, heels clicking down the hall like punctuation. Behind her, the firm scrambled. Emails fired, calls multiplied. Budgets shook as questionable accounts were frozen and reclassified. Names that had hidden in shadows suddenly had to answer questions in plain language. Quinn did not look back. She had not burned the building down. She had simply removed the illusion that it was ever fireproof.